Hey everyone, and welcome back to BakedHR. I am Jasmine Wilkes here with my co-host Christina Minyard. Hi Christina, how are you doing today?
I am doing okay, Jasmine. It's been one hell of a week, though. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. We're recording this on Saturday, so I am trying to just keep it a lazy Saturday, probably a lazy weekend if I'm being honest with myself.
I understand. I took 2 days off this week,
hmm
and I'm so glad I did. But because I took 2 days off this week, I'm not here for a lazy Saturday. After this, I have a lot of other things I want to get done. But we'll get to that and kind of how that came about in different coping ways. So, obviously, this was kind of a not really last minute, but unplanned session that we put together in response to current events, in response to what we saw happen on Wednesday.
hmm
Um, so let's just jump right into it and get going. So, Jasmine, where do we want to start?
So we want to talk about today, with everything that has happened this past week. I mean, 2020 was itself.
Do
but
not recommend.
but walking into 2021, and the events that happened on Wednesday, we wanted to come and ask a few questions, but they're all surrounding this one particular question that we're going to start with to see how everyone is responding, because we want this to be a conversation. We want to know what you all think, what you all are doing. We by no means have all the answers. That's one of the reasons why we started Baked HR, so we can have more conversations within the HR and business community. So with all that being said, today's question is, are we expecting employees to work through chaos? And let me tell you, we have had some chaos this week.
You know what? Since the cat's kind of out of the bag, and like everyone knows, which everyone knew before I said it, that I've drank a little bit of the corporate Kool-Aid. So my first response to that is sort of yes.
hmm
We are, right? We are expecting people to work through some amount of chaos.
hmm
But realistically, at the end of the day, as a human, I can like take a step back and reflect and recognize that all of us respond and cope in different ways. And part of why I have such a busy day planned for myself today is that's my coping mechanism. Like, I need to stay busy. I need to stay focused. I need to do something productive. I need to put something out there that I can be like, oh, I worked on that and I accomplished something. But some people need a day to decompress. Maybe they need to just be alone. Maybe they just need to sit with their family. We all have totally different ways of coping. So if you're looking at it from an organization perspective, and I work for a small company. So every employee that we have, every contractor that supports us, every vendor that supports us, I know them by name. I know who they are. I know how to get in touch with them whenever I want to get in touch with them. And just looking at a small sample size of those people, they're all going to process that differently. And some of them, for whatever reason, have no reaction at all, right? But if you're at a large organization, there's no way you can cater to 2,000 people's needs instantly when we are witnessing a moment of chaos that impacts all of us, whether we like it or not. So what's the best way to deal with that? Where does that start? Do you think that managers should bring this up first, or do you think an employee should speak up and say, hey, I'm having a hard time dealing with this. I need a break.
Well, see, and I know you talk about drinking the corporate Kool-Aid, but I do think there is a level to chaos. So, if it's something where the organization is having something going on that is crazier than normal, then yes, I am expecting employees to work, through that chaos in some way. I think for me, the difference is it wasn't it wasn't small by any means. Like, this was on every single news outlet, every single, social media outlet. Like, to me, it wasn't just, one small place or one small city. Like, this is affecting the entire world. Um, and so working through that type of chaos, to me, while some people, yes, some people is like, I need to tune everything that is happening in the world out. I don't come in my office telling me about it. I don't want to know about it. I just want to, you know, do something that I can control in this moment. I can't control what they're doing, at the Capitol, but I can control my work right here and right now. And this is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it needs to be a two-way street. I think employees need to feel safe enough to be able to come to you and tell you that they need a moment. But I also think managers need to be leaders and be able to just send a quick, hey, is everything okay? Are you all right? And for some people, that's hard. You have, managers who are managing 50, hundreds of people. So, that can be difficult. But I think it needs to be a two-way street, or have a conversation beforehand. And, that's what knowing your employee is all about. If you know that someone deals with things where they don't want to be bothered, they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to bring anything up, and they just want to deal with it in their own way, then okay. If it's someone that needs that quick check-in, or like a IM or something that just says, hey, is everything all right, is there anything you need to discuss? I think, yeah, it needs to be a two-way street.
So I think personally, if I look at myself as an employee,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot picture myself ever going to my boss and saying, hey, this is really scary, or this is really overwhelming, and I can't focus on my job.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of that is I would really want anyone who works with me to feel like they could come and say that to me. But what I might do instead as the HR manager is go to my boss and say, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on in the news today. There's a lot of stuff happening right now that might be affecting our employees.
Mm-hmm.
How do we want to address this as an organization? But again, we're a small business. I've got like direct contact with the CEO, and I imagine it's a different kind of conversation when it's a big organization, and maybe you've got to send a communication out to thousands of people or hundreds of people or whatever the size of your organization is.
Yeah.
But I asked my husband, well, how did you get through the day? Because I'm going to be on Wednesday, I stopped working. I sat in the floor refreshing my Twitter feed over and over again. I went downstairs and turned on the news, and I was like, wow, what is really happening? What is really happening? We're really watching this go down in our own country right now. But he kept working. We were both working from home that day, and he kept working. So I wanted to kind of pick his brain, because I kind of knew what you did through the day, because obviously we communicated throughout the day. Mm-hmm. But I was like, how did you guys, did anyone even bring it up? And he shared with me that, he has a group of friends at work, and they were in a group IM. And so they were able to chat about it with each other. And as a manager, he didn't, if his employees needed anything, he wanted to offer that to them. But from the larger corporate perspective, they did send out some communication, and I don't know if it came out Wednesday or if it came out Thursday. But it was information about the EAP, hey, if you're struggling with this, we want you to be able to talk to somebody. Here's some information that you need to do that. They also reminded everyone in the same email about their code of conduct and their social media policy. And personally, I think that was probably a good time to do that, because I think we're seeing a lot of conversations about, well, what can you hold employees to outside of work? And is it fair to fire someone who, participated in that or whatever? So taking that moment and and getting everyone's attention and saying, hey, we realize that you might be affected in a way that's different from somebody else. Here's a resource for you. But also here's our expectations as a company, and then let the employee kind of find that balance between all the information that they provided. But again, he works for a company that has tons of employees. And so I'm sure like that email went through legal probably multiple times before it actually like was sent out. But I know a lot of HR professionals who would rather be like, hey, if you need anything, come talk to me. And I'm more on the side of, hey, if you need something, here is the EAP, please use it. What do you think?
So that was one of my follow-up questions is, did anyone even send out an EAP reminder to let their employees know that, hey, they might not feel comfortable enough coming to talking to you about this because, you know, especially for, I can say honestly for Black and Brown employees, they probably won't feel comfortable coming to talk to you about this. But did you at least offer them another light by offering EAP or reminding them about EAP? And I absolutely love that, you know, what his organization did, because I mean, it doesn't have to go out same day. The world is on fire same day. Like let's all find some chill. Okay.
Yes,
So the
yes.
day after, you know, they sent it out and sent that information about their policy as well. I absolutely love that. I think that was a great thing to do. I think the biggest issue is, did your organization outright ignore what is happening and then still expect employees to work through that? And I think for me, it's like, you know, some people have that policy of never get, you know, don't get on your phone, you know, ignore all social media things while you're at work. You need to focus on work. And while I can understand why some organizations are like that, and, you know, I just, for what happened, I don't see how you can expect not to walk by an employee's, you know, cubicle or desk and possibly find them scrolling on Facebook or even your local news station.
Yeah, well, so I wrote that down actually in my notes to prepare for this. And we like rarely ever like go over our notes together before we start talking. So that's funny. But one of the things I was thinking about different environments I've worked in, because, you know, I've supported manufacturing businesses before. I've supported, you know, office only work, just technical work, medical work. And so I think about like in the different environments, how much access do you have to the information that's going on? And it kind of took me back to 9/11. So I was in high school when 9/11 happened, and I was an office aide in the morning, which is really a terrible, terrible use of a teenager's time in high school. I should have been in a class learning something. Why in the hell was I an office aide? Anyway, and the principal and the vice principal were watching the news because somebody had called them and told them what was going on. And so they pulled, you know, wheeled one of the TVs out on the cart and they were watching the news. And I was like, holy crap, what's happening? You know, I was in 10th grade, you know, but I was just like, wow, this is insane. What is happening? And then as the day went on, I mean, that's all we did. Each classroom was watching the news. We didn't do any assignments. We didn't accomplish any schoolwork. We watched the news together. We talked about what was happening. We didn't get anything else done. I think today they would send all the kids home. And I was thinking about that. Like, why didn't they just send us home? We obviously weren't going to do anything the rest of the day. But also from a parent perspective, I'm like, please don't send my kid home because my job might not let me leave. So maybe that's why they didn't send us home. But thinking about that, it kind of felt like someone's going to let you know, even if you have all of your social media blocked, if you're not allowed to carry your phone into your workplace or workstation that you're currently in or whatever, someone's hearing about what's happening and someone's going to come into the room and physically let you know what's going on. And then you're all going to turn your attention to the news when something that huge is happening, something that huge and important and relevant and timely. Also in such a, you know, connected world, like, my first thoughts were, oh my gosh, I have friends and family in the DC area. I need to start checking on them and see where they are. So, you know, it wasn't just like watching the news, but it was like checking in with other people, who I knew were close to the area. So I do think like those things consume your mind. But I can't imagine where like on the warehouse floor, you're the first to know what's actually going on. So if that's your work environment where people maybe don't have access to everything that's going on right now, or updated information, do you as a representative of the organization go out onto the floor and say, hey, you guys, we just want to make you aware, you know, of what's going on and see what you need?
That is a good question. And I do not have an answer for that one. I think that one is really going to be set to a company base, like what type of company and organization are you? Um, that's a really good question. I would be very interested to find out how, if you all work in that type of environment, um, how you all handle that. Were you able to, like, did you go out and talk to the employees that you knew probably weren't getting those direct updates and information like most people who, you know, do like sit in the office would? Um, yeah, that's a really good question.
Well, you know, and I think about like a lot of times, and you know, if I keep going back to manufacturing because, like, you know, there are certain jobs on a manufacturing floor where it's not safe for you to be on your phone, so you shouldn't have
Yeah.
your phone out. You know, where, you know, a half of what we do can be done from our phone, so it's totally reasonable for us to be on our phone. So I just keep thinking, like, are you upset if your employer didn't come out and talk to you and give you an update, knowing you didn't have access to real-time information? Or are you relieved that you were able to focus on the job? Or do you feel like, oh, they only care about money? Which, I mean, let's be real, an organization exists to be profitable. So that's always going to be part of the discussion, part of the decision-making. You can do both. You can be profitable and take care of your people, but that's always going to be an element in the discussion, right? And so if your productivity and your sales and your revenue are driven by how many items come off that floor, do you really go out there and interrupt that? Because there's really, at that point, nothing that we can do from where we are. So what's the best route? How did you decide which one is the best route? So really, Jasmine, I'm starting to feel like this whole session is just a bunch of questions for our audience, and we're just going to be sitting here patiently waiting for you to send us emails or leave us comments.
It really is, because another one is, you know, do you take time out? So like at this point, you know, pretty much everyone knows about what is happening. Say this is Wednesday and pretty much everyone knows about what is happening, and you know your people are distracted. Do you say, okay, y'all, we're going to take 30 minutes. You contact whoever you need to contact to make sure they're okay. We'll, you know, turn the TVs are already on to the news. We're taking 30 minutes, a little 30-minute timeout break. If you just want to take a breather, go outside, have a smoke break, if that's your choice. And then once that 30 minutes is up, we come back and we start work again. Like, was that something that some organizations did? And, you know, how is that decided? I think so for some people, because you know me, I'm always the one that's like, you know, you don't live to serve your organization 24/7. But organizations are expecting you to, you know, be there for them 24/7 in some ways. So when something like this happens, then what? If we're a family at work,
Oh, there you go again.
and something like this happens, are we still a family? Like, what's going on?
Well, that's a good question, Jasmine, because how would you take care of your family in that sense? Because yes, you know, and my husband even made this comment whenever I was chatting with him about how they approached this. And I said, well, you know, what keeps you focused? And he said, well, I just try to think of my family and my family's needs. And in that scenario, that includes my work family. And I'm like, or whatever. But you know, I get it. And it's a little different to say like work family than to say we're a family, but we can get into that another time. But you know, like with the pandemic, for example, like I felt like I had my immediate family I needed to take care of. And then I needed to make sure that there was a plan for my extended family, specifically my grandmother, who lives in a nursing home. And, you know, we rely on someone else to take care of her, but I needed to know that there was a plan for her. And then I also had 50 people at work that I needed to have a plan for. But the plan for the 50 people at work was not the same plan for my immediate family.
Yeah.
You know, so when you say things like that, like, oh, we're a family at work, we're blah, 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 blah. You know, we joked about that tweet that was like, no, you're not a family at work because you don't fire your son or daughter or brother or sister whenever, you know, something goes wrong in the family, whenever there's an issue in the family. And I fully support that and believe that, but there are some people who look at work as a family place. So how would you literally take care of your family in that scenario? And then is it even appropriate to take care of people at work in the same manner? Because I don't necessarily think it is.
It's not. I mean,
because
families are different. So all families are different. So I can't say that it's not. I can say for me and mine, but all families are different. So.
Well, you know, like I might sit down with my 16-year-old and like squeeze her extra tight, you know, because I'm like, what crazy world have we brought you into? And I want her to feel protected and safe. With my husband, at the end of the day, I might pour a drink with him and kick our feet up and be like, holy crap. Yeah. Neither one of those things are things I'm going to do for employees at work.
Yeah.
And whether we're called a family or not, those are not things. Those are just not things that are going to happen. So I just think that those are, you know, specifics to think of when you're comparing work to family. Yeah. But, you know, we obviously have strong opinions about that. But I think also what's the fallout? Going back to your example of saying we have 30 minutes, we're going to take a break, go like smoke half a bag of cigarettes for all I care, whatever it is you need to do, and then come back. Well, when we come back and now everyone has, maybe they scrolled through Twitter and they got a bunch of updates. Maybe they watched the news. Maybe they called a loved one, whatever it is. Now they're coming back into the organization and everyone's got their opinions about what's going on. Mm-hmm. How do we handle that? Because it's not always pretty once we start talking about opinions like this. I mean, this is a politically charged conversation. Mm-hmm. And whether you're left, right, center, independent, don't care, don't vote, whatever, you have an opinion about what's going on, and it might not be the same as your coworkers. And we can't all have reasonable disagreements, and we shouldn't all have reasonable disagreements. You know, like we're not really cutting people slack on the, let's get along and heal. Like, no, you need to understand what's wrong about this and how that carries through your day-to-day actions. Mm-hmm. So what happens when this turns into a heated discussion on the floor after you've let everyone have your 30-minute break?
And see, I'm very, like, that was an example, but I'm very iffy about doing that because of that exact question. What's the fallout behind it? And, you know, I'm the type that I would rather I want you to address it in some way, but then I don't want us to I want you to address it the way that, you know, your husband's organization addressed it. Here's the EAP. Here's our policy information. You know, we hope y'all all right. Kick rocks. We done. I don't after that, I don't want to talk about it anymore because there are so many different people who might think that, you know, what happened was right. There are people who think that what happened was wrong. And then there are people who just, you know, don't care. But I don't want to have those conversations with those people. I don't want to have the conversations about, you know, what's going on politically at work, because to me it's not a safe place to have that conversation for anyone. So I don't think we should bring it in those ways. And that's hard, because if you do want to give your people, you know, a break, if you do want to give your people time to process everything that has happened, people are going to see, people are going to have their own opinion, and people are going to start making smart comments sometimes. So I don't know. I feel like this talk is just like, here's a question. We don't know the answer, but what did you do?
Well, because we really don't know the answer. It's not like we've been doing HR for 30 years, you know? So I just, and maybe there's someone out, and not saying that, you know, nobody I know is doing HR when, you know, the last Civil War happened. Calm down, calm down. But, you know, okay, so think about this. This is totally like a lighthearted comparison. Mm-hmm. Do you remember a couple of years ago, there was this article about March Madness and how much, I think it was 2019, how much productivity was lost during March Madness. And I've almost always worked places where we had like a little bracket tournament for fun or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I've worked places where we pulled the tournament up, everybody's watching the tournament, maybe while we're working, maybe while we're just cutting up, you know, whatever. And so apparently that's a common thing. And so someone did a study, and they estimated that U.S. employers in 2019 stood to lose like over $13 billion in productivity because of the March Madness tournament. So like when you think of something like that, that's recurring, that you know is happening every year, you know when it's happening, then maybe you have like a policy in place or a plan in place to help balance that productivity and, you know, something lighthearted and fun that people can participate in. Mm-hmm. But maybe if you have a good solid thing for that, you can pull from that for times of unprecedented, everybody at home take a drink, chaos. And just, you know, apply it to something like this. But we don't know. We don't know. And I guess another question that I'm going to throw on the list, do you think work should be a safe place to have these kind of discussions? Because I personally, I don't see a lot of business leaders in our local community who are able to have a conversation with a group of employees and not let their own personal beliefs mm-hmm. seep through the conversation. So there might be, maybe they don't come out and say what they mean, but there's usually an underlying message, right? And if you can't, as a leader, separate what you personally think and think about, you know, the people in the shoes that work for you, then maybe just don't have the conversation at all. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's safer than trying to create a safe place for everyone to disagree and then try to have a kumbaya moment.
And that's what I'm saying. Like that's why just send the information that needs to be sent. Leave your opinion out of it, but let people know that there are other resources that we have available, you know, to them that they can contact to talk about this, to, you know, get whatever they're feeling off of their chest. Because, you know, in government contracting, you know, a lot of people were like, no, I don't have social media. I don't have social media. You will never find me on social media. So, you know, once again, we're sending employees home, and we can't tell employees how to cope, but we're sending employees home and they have, you know, a bunch of bottled up things, you know, going on in them within what's already happening at work and then what's happening, you know, in the world. And it's just so much that you need to stress the importance of using that EAP since we do have it available. Or just if you don't have EAP, just finding some resources in your city or state that you can give your employees to let them know that, hey, here's some numbers you can call if you need to talk about it, if you need to discuss it, you need to get anything off of your chest. But yeah, I don't know. Don't talk about it at work.
Well, and I just imagined, especially in this instance, there is a race discussion to have because there is a lot of racism at the core of what is happening here. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I just like had this fear that people like maybe your coworkers would be coming to you as the Black woman they work with. Mm-hmm. To try to dispel the racism or to try to learn about the racism and the root of what's happening and how it might impact you and use you as either the person to convince that they're not racist, or the person to teach themselves about racism in a time like this? And what are some things that we should be doing as an organization to divert that, to make sure that no one is saying, okay, now's my chance to go talk to the 1 or 2 Black people we work with, which is a whole different conversation, right? If it's only 1 or 2 people. And putting this burden back on them. Is there something in the code of conduct that we add? Is there a separate policy we have? Is there just an understanding we have at work? Or because here's my fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone comes to the Black woman at work, okay, and you're frustrated, you're processing your own feelings about what's happening, and you don't have time for this fuckery where they want you to, well, prove to me how this is racist. And so you put your foot down and say, no, we're not having this conversation. We're not doing this. We're not going down this road. And then they're just like, oh God, Jasmine's such an angry Black woman. When in reality, they started digging at that when it was not the appropriate time to dig at that. And they created this environment where the light's back on you and not on their actions still. So where does a corporation insert something to keep that scenario from happening?
Well, I'm going to tell you, as someone who has had both of those things happen to me in different organizations, I don't know. I think it is something that corporate needs to address. But so for the first time, like ever, we always talk about how we don't get emotional, especially at work. For the first time ever after the George Floyd incident happened, I believe it was after the George Floyd incident. So much stuff happened in 2020. But I actually had to close my office door and cry, not because anyone actually did come to me with those questions, but because it was so overwhelming of what was happening in the world, that it got to be too much walking around, the office, trying to act like everything was fine and okay. It got to be too much. And I actually had to close my door and cry, which I have never, ever done at work. So yes, I think it needs to be addressed, beforehand. It needed to be addressed, before everyone felt like that was the thing to do in 2020. Because, in 2020, all of the black boxes on social media came, all of the let's update our mission statements and our policies to make sure that people know that Black Lives Matter came. And we needed to have these conversations beforehand, but you definitely cannot expect for the Black people at work to have those answers for you, because I'm at the point that I'm not able to have an adult conversation with you about this at work. And that's just me being honest. So, and this is a whole different conversation, but corporate does need to have those policies in place. Corporate does need to have a way to make sure employees know what that they shouldn't do that. But it can't just be a policy on paper. It needs to be something that is actually done and something that is actually monitored in the workplace.
Yeah, so it's got to be like a practice and something ingrained in people, and resources for people so that they understand what that means, and other ways to educate themselves and to not be a total ass. So another thing, before we wrap this up, before we wrap up our list of questions for our audience, please help us. How do we use, today is January 9th. Mm-hmm. All of this went down on January 6th. It didn't start on January 6th. It went down on January 6th, right? Yeah. There were tons of signs before January 6th that something crazy was going to pop off. Mm-hmm. maybe we all like downplayed it. Maybe we just, I don't know, but it didn't. The point of that is that it didn't start on the 6th. That's just when it, came to life.
And we still, what, a week and a half? How long we got?
Exactly. So it's the 9th, and we've got to make it till the 20th before Inauguration Day. Okay. And they're already reporting threats that people are saying, we're going to be back on Inauguration Day and we're going to be more violent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the 20th is another day where we're going to see, not just a dip in productivity, but like, people are going to be processing emotions. People are going to be on high alert. People are going to be trying to tune into what's happening in real time, criticizing, everything that we can see, and are we prepared for this, and what's happening. So maybe, I don't know, did we learn anything this week to help us prepare for the 20th?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't, because like I said, I took Thursday and Friday off. So I'm a terrible HR person. It was already planned. And I joked with some of y'all that like I don't take any time off during the holidays other than the actual holiday, so that I can take a little bit of time off in January. So I don't know how my employees are feeling right now. I will find out on Monday, and I will find out on Monday if anyone had any issues or whatever, because Wednesday afternoon I kind of stopped working, and then I logged back in later Wednesday night to finish all of my tasks. So I haven't learned anything, but if you've learned something, or our audience has learned something that we can do to help, other than give everybody the day off, I don't know, maybe the right answer is give everybody the day off, but then also remind them of the social media and the conduct policy, so you don't see the FBI looking for your employees the next day, because hello.
How would you have handled that one, Christina?
Listen, I talked to a friend about it, and I was just like, I am here for it. The FBI is looking for my employee. I'm gonna give you, listen, you can't be out there acting a fool like that, pulling dangerous, illegal, political shit, like, period. You just can't do that. And, we keep hearing like insurrection. We keep hearing sedition. I wonder if people actually know what these words mean. This isn't just like, I'm upset about something and I'm participating in a peaceful protest. This is your picture. Okay. You are on video breaking windows of the Capitol building. Who the hell told you that's okay?
Well, they pay taxes.
No. You think there's no consequences for that? None? Zero?
They pay taxes.
We have such a culture of trying to figure out how to minimize the taxes that we pay when we file our taxes. I don't even want to hear that argument. We, and that's on the tax law, right? Whatever. But don't act like, and if people really knew how much of their personal taxes went to stuff like that, they'd realize not enough for you to feel like you can break that damn window. Okay. That's not okay. But who thinks like I can go, this is 2021. We have access to so much information. Okay. And this kind of goes back to our professionalism video that we just published earlier this week or last week. I think we published it last week on the 1st.
Yeah.
Because in this incident, guess what? Someone is going to find out where you work. And someone's going to put pressure on your employer to respond, because this is not like the Iron Bowl where you rooted for the team that most everyone doesn't like. Okay. This is like real life illegal criminal activity. And if your employer doesn't respond, then that's sending a message that they're okay with that behavior. And I just can't think of a scenario where as an employer, you would be okay with that scenario. I can't think of an industry. Maybe there's one out there, but not one that I've ever supported. And not one where you're welcome to come back and work with people around you who are uncomfortable with the actions that you did that made national news. It's not like you got picked up in the county for a DUI over the weekend and not everybody knows about it. This is national news of you doing illegal criminal activity. You've got to go. You just got to go. That's just my 2 cents. So, and I'm sure someone will disagree with me, and I am fine with that. But we really would love to hear, your best practices, or maybe the challenges that you had, or maybe the challenges that you're still trying to solve that we didn't bring up today, because I think, if we put our heads together, maybe we can come up with better plans to help support our people and support our businesses, and not just have a bunch of test cases where really we just do it wrong and screw a bunch of people up.
Yeah, I think that is a great way to end today. So if you have answers for us for any of our questions that we asked today, then send us an email at bakedhr@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at BakedHR. We're doing some really fun things over on the Instagram. We're doing a lot of live videos, and we even may have a giveaway coming up soon. So make sure you go over there and follow us on that. And then always like and subscribe to the BakedHR YouTube channel that you're watching right now, to make sure that you get a notification for the next time we post a BakedHR video. So until next time, we hope to hear from you in the comments and in the email inbox, and we'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.
Bye.